You know, I've been watching this whole Washington circus unfold for what feels like forever. And let me tell you, the latest chapter on the government shutdown has me shaking my head in disbelief. Here we are, just wrapping up the longest shutdown in American history. 41 grueling days of closed doors, missed paychecks, and families scraping by. Without the basics, and President Trump struts out like he's just pulled off the heist of the century. He calls it a win, a big fat notch on his belt, because Democrats blinked first, and the lights are flickering back on in federal buildings across the country. But honestly, if this is victory, it's the kind that leaves you with a hangover and a bill you can't pay. For Republicans, it's turned into this massive, throbbing political migraine that's got the party scrambling, divided, and staring down a barrel of voter backlash come next year's midterms. It's like Trump handed them a trophy made of dynamite, and now they're all wondering who gets to hold it without getting blown up. Let me paint the picture for you, because if you're like me, you're probably tired of the endless cable news loops but still can't look away. It all kicked off back in early October when Congress couldn't agree on a spending bill to keep the lights on. Democrats, dug in like ticks, refused to budge without locking in extensions for those Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies. You know, the ones that have been keeping health insurance premiums from skyrocketing into the stratosphere for millions of everyday folks. Without them, we're talking about families facing double-digit jumps in costs, right? When inflation's already got everyone pinching pennies. Republicans led by Trump from the Oval Office said no way. Open the government first, then we'll chat about health care. It was classic trench warfare. Dems holding the line for working people. GOP betting the public would turn on the obstructionists eventually. And for a hot minute, it looked like the Republican playbook might work. Trump leaned hard into his strongman vibe, using the shutdown not just as leverage, but as a wrecking ball. We're talking unprecedented moves. Halting SNAP benefits that left 42 million low-income Americans wondering where their next meal was coming from. Slashing air traffic control staffing that turned airports into chaos zones with canceled flights and safety scares, and even floating mass firings of federal workers to streamline the bureaucracy. He bragged about it too, tweeting, or truth socialing, whatever you call it these days, about redirecting funds from money-sucking insurance companies straight to the people for much better health care. Sounded bold, right? Like the art of the deal in action. His team painted Democrats as the villains, holding the country hostage over Obamacare giveaways. And for a while, some polls showed the blame game tilting their way. But here's where it gets real messy, and why this win feels more like a gut punch to the GOP. As the days dragged into weeks, past the 35-day mark of Trump's own record from his first term, the pain started hitting home in ways that no amount of spin could hide. Federal employees, many of them veterans or single parents, went without paychecks for the first time in living memory. Food banks shifted into disaster mode, lines wrapping around blocks as families rationed groceries. Small businesses near national parks or in tourism-heavy spots watched reservations evaporate because government sites were dark. And air travel? Forget it. Reduced controllers meant delays that rippled into holiday nightmares for millions. Trump tried to play it cool, jetting off to summits and posting AI-generated memes, mocking Democratic leaders like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. But voters weren't laughing. Poll after poll, Quinnipiac, CNN, you name it, showed the public pinning 45–50% of the blame on Republicans and Trump, compared to just 30–40% on Dems. Independents, those swing voters who decide elections, were furious, with nearly 60% in some surveys saying the GOP was weaponizing the shutdown to hurt everyday people. Then came the off-year elections last week, and oof, that was the wake-up call nobody in the White House wanted. Democrats didn't just win, they steamrolled. Swept the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia by double digits, flipped a couple of state legislative chambers, fast forward to last weekend, and the endgame unfolds in the Senate like a bad soap opera. After 40 days of deadlock, 8 Democratic senators, folks like Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada, Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire, and even retiring Dick Durbin from Illinois, broke ranks and voted with Republicans to advance a clean funding bill. It funds the government through late January, reverses those brutal firings, guarantees back pay for furloughed workers, and restores full SNAP funding. Trump gave it a thumbs up, saying it'd open the country very quickly. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who'd kept his chamber on permanent recess to avoid the heat, finally called everyone back for a vote this week. Boom. Shutdown over. Lights on. Federal workers breathing a sigh of relief. But here's the rub, and why Republicans are popping aspirin like candy. They got their win, but at what cost? Democrats didn't cave entirely. They extracted a promise from Senate Majority Leader John Thune for a December vote on extending those ACA subsidies. Sure, it's no guarantee. With GOP majorities, that bill's got about as much chance as a snowball in July, but it keeps the pressure cooker simmering. Now, healthcare, that third rail of American politics, is squarely back in Republican laps. Trump's been promising a better and cheaper alternative since his 2016 campaign, remember? Repeal and replace was the battle cry. But all we got were half measures like capping some drug prices while premiums kept climbing. Fast forward to his debate with Kamala Harris last year, and he's still peddling concepts of a plan. A year into term 2, and crickets. With subsidies expiring end of the year, millions, not just ACA enrollees, but anyone scraping by in this cost of living hell, are staring down premium hikes of 50% or more. Polls show 70–80% of voters want those credits extended, including majorities of independents and even some Republicans. And it's not just policy fallout, it's ripping the GOP apart from the inside. Enter Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump's loudest cheerleader turned party scold. The Georgia firebrand, who's built her brand on MAGA loyalty, went rogue early in the shutdown, blasting leadership on X for ignoring how her own family's premiums would double without subsidies. Not a single Republican in leadership talked to us about this or has given us a plan, she fumed. Even as a non-fan of Obamacare, she called out the silence as a betrayal of working Americans. Now, post-shutdown, she's doubling down, urging Trump to ditch the foreign junkets and huddle on domestic fixes. It's got whispers of heresy in Trump world. Is MTG the new heretic? But it taps into a deeper fracture. Moderate House Republicans from swing districts wrote desperate letters during the chaos, begging for subsidy talks to save their seats. Endangered senators like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski echoed the pleas, warning of midterm bloodbaths. Trump's base loves the tough guy shutdown shtick, but the broader party? They're sweating bullets over looking heartless while Dems play the empathy card. Look, I've voted across the aisle in my time, and I get the frustration with DC's endless gridlock. Shutdowns are stupid. Nobody wins, as John Thune put it. And this one felt especially cruel because Trump turned it into a personal vendetta. He didn't invite Dem leaders to the White House, didn't shuttle to the Capitol for FaceTime heroics. Instead, he egged on the pain, threatening to nuke the filibuster, which his own senators shot down, and floating wild ideas like direct health rebates without details. It preserved his "I don't fold" image, sure, but at the expense of party unity and public trust. Republicans now own health care again, just like in the Obama era when repeal efforts became their kryptonite. Heading into 26, with Dems energized and fundraising off this mess, the GOP's got to thread a needle, deliver real relief without alienating the base that sees ACA as socialism incarnate. So where does that leave us? The government's humming again. Paychecks flowing, flights on time, food stamps refilled. And that's a mercy. But this shutdown scars run deep. Trump's win exposed the fault lines in his coalition. The billionaires and ideologues versus the everyday Republicans feeling the pinch. Democrats, fractured as they were with those 8 defectors drawing fire from progressives, still came out looking like the grown-ups who fought for families. For the GOP, it's headache city, scrambling for a health plan that isn't vaporware, mending fences with restive members like Green, and praying voters have short memories. Trump? He'll golf at Mar-a-Lago and declare total victory, but the real test is whether his party can survive the backlash he's unleashed. If there's a silver lining, it's this. Maybe, just maybe, this forces both sides to get serious about fixing a broken system. Healthcare shouldn't be a political football. It should be a right, not a privilege doled out in budget fights. As we head into the holidays, with families tallying the real costs of this fiasco, I'm hoping Washington's elites remember that. Because if they don't come November 26, it'll be the voters holding the dynamite.